Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe this video for more content on any of your alternative football favorites. Now, on to the show. Welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Gridiron Gallery. I'm your host, Zach Keilman, and as always, today we revisit the European League of Football. If you guys remember back in late March, I had on, these two guys right here for a kind of round panel discussion between really insider, if you will, on the European League of Football, league that had kind of been catching some, not say the heat, but it was picking up some steam at the time. Now it's gotten even some more traction, some more eyeballs on it. More people are noticing it, especially now that the entire set of teams is now been announced and is set and finalized for its June launch. Guys, welcome in. Good to have you back on. I appreciate you coming on for a second show.
The first one.
Yeah, thanks, Zach.
I mean, the first one, a lot of people were really interested in, I can tell, in what the league was and what the league is and doing. And as we know, and as said in the first episode, it looks like, and even more so with the extra teams that's added in, it's trying to bring the nostalgia of the WLAF or NFL Europe, but it's not supposed to be that, and it doesn't really have much connection. But let's get into this. So real quick, things that have happened since, March 28th. A lot of things, but I'll just kind of go over some quick points. First off, all the teams are finalized. So at the time of the last episode, we had three teams that we were talking about, and then the Barcelona Dragons joined during the recording they had announced. So the four at the time were the Hamburg Sea Devils, the Frankfurt Galaxy, the Barcelona Dragons, and the Cologne Centurions. Those were confirmed at the time. You had two others that unfortunately they were removed from the league, and now we have four different rosters that now fill in or have been renamed, as you will. So I'm going to list off the other four. We have, of course, and I'm apologizing if I mispronounce these, the Leipzig Kings. We have the Stuttgart Surge that are going to be joining as well. Stuttgart. Again, the pronunciations, this is an American trying to say European cities, if you will. Besides those two, we also have as well, or am I missing one here? Is that it? I thought that was no.
So what it was? It was the Berlin Thunder, where they had announced that there was going to be a Berlin team, but they announced the Thunder name specifically when they announced the Centurions and the Kings, which was also like 10 minutes after they had announced that the Praetorians and the German Knights were not playing.
You know what's throwing me for a loop is that they've done a second rebrand of that same name with the Thunder, because they've redesigned the logo slightly as well as the colorization.
Yeah.
So I'm using the newly made European League of Football website, which, by the way, that's even newer as of this announcement. Before that, it was just kind of a drop site for maybe some basic info. They now have everything: team shop schedules, the team listings that I'm using, travel information, ticket info, what network they're going to be on, which that's even news, which they're going to broadcast, I guess, stream it from the website worldwide for games is another thing they announced. And of course, plenty of coaches, players, and the like have been announced since. I could go through all of them, but honestly, it's pretty hard. What I would say is that I'm happy that Vince is able to have all this stuff down and knows this by hand. So all the key ones he's got in a beautiful spreadsheet that we're all able to see and are enjoying so much. So thank you for that, by the way. Can't appreciate it enough.
That's what the research is for. You know what I'm saying? So a part of why I get into, European ball in general is that, there's some seriously talented players out there, and people on the States will enjoy it, just don't know about it. So try to just kind of be that medium of information so people can kind of know that, hey, there's like some serious ball out here that's like worth watching. I spent all Saturday, like from 8 a.m. to like almost midnight, watching different ball games between international and arena. It's always good games on, you know what I'm saying?
Dedication, my friend. That's what I'm saying. Seeing right there. That's some dedication. And I bring both of you in here as well, because you're both pretty much insiders at different areas of the world, but also in different aspects. As we have with Aaron Ellis, we understand, and he is part of the DAF, at least the league that is for the Danish football players. He is with the Solrod Gold Diggers. He's going to be the quarterback for that club out there. Meanwhile, as we say with Vince, he is from All Football Scouting Report. pretty much covers any football you will and does all the deep digging into the players, coaching, and etc. So, Vince, we've gotten your side with at least kind of some of the players here. Aaron, what's going on that's been new as of late, maybe on the club side? What have you been hearing out there from just maybe different places you're connected to right now?
A lot.
Okay.
A lot of talks going on. Well, after our last episode, there was a few people to make sure that they got in my ear about some things. Some people were saying things that like apparently I didn't know. And then there was also people telling me like, good and bad things. So I'm gonna like everything I'm about to say right now. Okay. I want to make sure everyone understands. I'm not a hater. All right. I want the league to work. I do. I think it will be a positive thing if it does. All right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That being said, my first and foremost concern is always and always will be with the players, not the clubs, not the ELF, not the management, whatever. It's the players. Okay. So everything that I say from here on out, that might sound negative or whatever it is, that's me poking the prod because someone has to. Okay. You got to make sure players are speaking out and that their voices are being heard and make sure that they're given the opportunity that they're being promised. And
I want to
a lot
double
of
down on that
conflicting.
sentiment before you get into this. I want to double down on that sentiment as well, just so people are clear. I'm literally on the same page with you on that.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
like I want them to succeed, but people like us have to be critical of people that run leagues because they need to know when they do something wrong that they can't do it again, and people need to have a conversation about how to prevent stuff like that from happening again.
Absolutely.
Because as much of a proponent as I am for this league, I know that they have made some not so good moves in the past few months, as on top of the other things that I do think have been good they've done.
Yeah, so I have at least one friend on every single ELF team right now.
Okay.
And I've been getting a lot of different reports, things being said for one team and then it's not being true for the other team. So, I mean, I'll just start right off the bat. I got a whole spreadsheet for you guys. See, I brought my spreadsheet.
Look at you.
It's probably not as in-depth as yours, but like I said, everything that I'm about to say, conflicting reports. There are a couple things that have been confirmed, so I will let you know when I'm talking which one of those are actually confirmed. Everything else I'm hearing from different people. I'll leave it up for you guys to make the decision on that. Okay. I mean, one of the biggest problems that I have heard of so far, a lot of the bad things are coming out of the Barcelona Dragons camp right now. Okay. When it comes to just mismanagement, maybe just questionable decisions, not treating players well, many things. Well, to start, so this is, conflicting reports. It is confirmed that the Americans playing for the Barcelona Dragons are only making like 600 euros a month, around that. Okay. And Barcelona is a cheap area, but I've been hearing reports on salaries for other teams that are in the, thousands. Okay. So
really,
I've been able to confirm a salary in one of the German teams, and I've compared it to the American salary that is confirmed with the Barcelona Dragons, and it is a huge disparity. Huge. Like, I don't understand what's going on with the money. I was instructed after our first episode that all the money was given out equally, and the teams had like a cap room, kind of like in the NFL. Okay.
Right.
So on that knowledge, I was led to believe that every American would get paid the same. Every European import would get paid the same. And then they also told me the native players are going to be getting paid in the ELF. Okay. So when I was told this after our episode, I got excited because I was like, oh, that's awesome. Native players getting paid. Beautiful, right? So I'm hearing now from Barcelona Dragons camp that the native players are just getting gas money. And this sum is amounting to about $50 a month. When I was told by my source after our first episode that they were getting paid, native players were making like 400 euros a month. And so someone's not telling me the truth, or one team's being different than others. It might have to do that team's in Germany and Patrick Asume and his office are right there. Maybe that team gets more love than others. I don't know. Whatever it could be, that was a first red flag for me personally.
Mhm.
Have you guys heard anything about any of that
Not
going
on
on?
salary wise, no.
Okay.
Nothing like that.
I had heard about the cap. I knew that I had understood there's two types of cap they're using, with one's import based and it was supposed to be one's local based, if I am not incorrect. At least that is what I have been able to find so far.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, everything I'm talking about is speculation based off of actual concrete. I know what these guys are getting paid from these two teams, and it's too big of a disparity. It's really weird for me, and I don't understand how that can work. Especially how we talked about in our last conversation, how the competition from Spain to Germany is going to be such a landslide. If you can't pay the same and offer an American the same money, why would he ever play for the Barcelona Dragons when you just go play for the Hamburg Sea Devils or the Berlin Thunder, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It makes no sense, and you're already setting up your club for failure. So I'm not sure what's going on. A couple other issues that I spoke to some Spanish players about the Barcelona Dragons. Their GM, Bart Icaro, he is also the GM of the Hospitalet Pioneers.
Mhm.
And so he basically took like half of his players, right?
Yeah.
Signed his, even though they're a second division team, took all their imports. Okay. And I know Adria, the tight end, he's going to the Hamburg Sea Devils, but he is a dog. So he deserves that 100%. But I reached out to Bart for questions, and he hasn't gotten back to me at all. So like I said, I gave Bart his chance to give me some information coming from his side before I spoke about it, but now I'm giving my speculation. What I've been hearing from the camp is that they don't give a shit about this season at all. They're just like, oh, we're in the LF, we're gonna set this ball in motion, and then next year we'll really actually try.
Okay.
So, and one thing that's concerning to me is some of the people they're signing. Okay. Not good talent, but for example, one kid's 18 years old, and immediately he is no longer eligible to go play college football in the States if that's the path he goes, if he's getting paid, which I'm being told everyone's getting paid. One thing that I was also instructed was that they're being told that this is their way to the international NFL pathway program.
Okay.
And if that is what they're saying to this kid as to why he's coming in at 18, or if that's what other ELF teams are saying, that's horseshit. And it shows you have an awful character. Because right now I'm telling you, if the ELF actually had ties with the NFL International Pathway Program, don't you think they would have advertised it? Don't you think they would have let out a huge article about it, right? Something big to draw attention to it. So they haven't done that. So that tells me they have no ties to the NFL International Pathway Program. Okay. I mean,
right. I don't know of any that they do have.
Like it's like kind of like an empty promise almost, where it's like
an empty promise that you can be taking a kid's 4-year college
exactly
away from.
Like there's some serious repercussions to that, and from their mentality is a successful league will eventually build that type of relationship with the NFL.
Yeah, when they're successful, of course, with the first year.
But exactly, you have to do that first. You can't make a promise for something you haven't actually done yet. You haven't accomplished that yet. So it's like, it may be the selling point, but are they promising that, or are they just saying like, hey, I feel like that, it may be misleading. There's no way to go about it without it being misleading to an extent,
That seems a bit. Yeah, it definitely comes off that way.
So this is kind of where I'm at with it. Is there's definitely some mistakes that have been made, maybe some promises that are being made that they can't uphold right now, right?
Oh, there's a lot of promises being made that they're not upkeeping, and I'll get to that right after this one.
the way I'm looking at it is like, look, with everything that they've done so far, with, you know, there's definitely been the negative drawbacks, specifically with the Dukes and the Invaders clubs and what has happened to their respective clubs since the involvement with the Praetorians and the German Knights and kind of the aftermath of that. With everything that's happened so far, they have to succeed at this point. They better, because they've already screwed so many people over that their failure will only be that many more people being screwed. It'll set the whole continent back in the world of football. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? It's like they've taken a very big leap of faith, and a lot of people have trusted them. A lot of people, a lot of coaches, a lot of really good talent, a lot of really good players have put their faith in them. So it's like, at this point, they better make it work and they better succeed, because you're putting everybody out pretty much if you don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
It definitely comes that way. You know, one thing I wanted that kind of caught me when you're talking, Aaron, with the Pioneers, how we have them basically being a feeder, or essentially having them as a farm real quick for just to get the Barcelona roster up. That is a mirror of what we were talking about just in the last show back in March, because that was the same thing that was happening with a few of these rosters too, was that, you know, that we were having players pulled from them, or having certain ones that were being shifted, where it was like the minor, or at least the lower level league team would be moved up to replace the team players that were lost, to then go to play in the ELF for those that were supposed to be playing in the club. And it kind of sticks right back with the whole scene where it's like, where's the club balance? And the club's still kind of being used to help fill these gaps, like we're hearing right now.
Yeah. Well, so in the Dragons' sake, they did do a local combine, and he has been taking a lot of players from the Pioneers, especially their imports. Like, I think half their offensive line, their starting offensive line, is coming straight from the Pioneers. The quarterback, Zach Edwards, I think his name is. I think two of his wide receivers, I think, are both homegrown talent, but like they're both on the roster. But it's not just that one club. Like, they have like the Barcelona Drax, like half their starting defense is going to be the Barcelona Dragons.
It's pretty much, you're right, exactly half.
Yeah, so it's like they basically have been able to make like an all-star team of just LNFA players, essentially, because there's a lot of offensive players from Osos Rivas going in as well. It's like Mario Flores, Adrian Jimenez, I think a couple of their other wide receivers as well. So in their sense, they were pulling from multiple different clubs, and they kind of were working hand in hand with the local league in Spain. I will give them, I do have to give them props for the way they kind of handled that, because they like planned their combine on an off weekend in between when the LNFA was playing, so nobody was going to have to miss a game to go to the combine. They waited to have their training camp towards the end of the season, so only the Spanish Bowl teams were still playing. Everybody else's season was done by the time they did training camp. So they aligned it a little bit so they wouldn't mess with the club culture in Spain at the very least. Mm-hmm. And I think that they used that kind of model, because that was really only what they did in Spain at first. Their original method of getting teams was reaching out to existing clubs, and only two people said yes, and that was the Stuttgart Scorpions at the time, and then the Panthers from Poland. Mm-hmm. So the Scorpions ended up having a whole infight thing. I'll get into that in a little bit. What then their next, I guess, approach was, okay, the ownership of these clubs didn't want to do this, but the players are interested, the coaches are interested, the general managers are interested, and that's how the Galaxy became a team, because there was like a very public split within the club, and like everybody left. It was like all the players came with the coach, with the GM, and they were able to secure an actual ownership and financing to keep the team around. The same thing was supposed to happen for the Dukes becoming the Praetorians and the Invaders becoming the German Knights, and the financiers for those two teams backed out. And that's why those two clubs fell apart. The German Knights are done. Go ahead.
Sorry. One thing I do got to correct myself from that first episode. So Frankfurt Universe is still playing in the GLF, GFL, sorry. And so is the Cologne Crocodiles now.
Yep.
Berlin Rebels are still playing in the GFL. So I am very.
They're still playing in the GFL too.
The Rebels dropped to the 2?
No, the Adler were down in the GFL too, and they're still playing in the GFL.
Well, the Berlin Rebels are still playing in like the top division in the GFL.
Right.
Yeah. So that's 2 teams. Like I'm really curious to see where they're going to get some of this homegrown talent, man, because I thought a team like had to disband for this to happen. But you're telling me in both these cities they're still holding a top GFL club in them?
Well,
like, where are the players going to come from, dude? Either one team's going to get screwed. One of them is. We're going to see a brand new GFL league this year, like a brand new.
Yeah. So what they've really been doing is, all right. Well, the two clubs that the 2 teams that ended up having to back out now, I haven't really seen any movement from too many Praetorians players. Chris Eziala was like the marquee signing of this league, is at least now with the Centurions, and Michael Birdsong was originally supposed to be on the Praetorians. He's now on the Leipzig Kings. And I think I saw like there was one guy that they had just like tagged in something at some point that was supposed to be on the Dukes, that was coming up from like a 5th-tier team that the Dukes had originally pulled to come up for 2020, and then he moved with the team to be in 2021 with the Praetorians, and he's now on the Stuttgart Surge.
Okay.
But a lot of the German Knights players are now on the Leipzig Kings. I think Anthony Dable-Wolf signing to the Kings just made a lot of people follow him. And I haven't seen, like, as far as their homegrown talent goes, because they did just hold a combine like yesterday or something, or some type of tryout. So we'll see what kind of talent is going to be there. But from what I understand, they have an agreement with the Leipzig Lions and the Leipzig Falcons, which are like regional teams. So they're going to be pulling a lot of talent from guys that have not even played in the GFL too. So I can understand where there's going to be a concern of what level of talent are these guys really going to have? How much talent are they really going to be able to put from homegrown?
Absolutely.
I think what they have working in their benefit is that you can have 14 imports on your team, 7 starters on each side. You need to have more than just 10 good homegrown talent players, obviously, but to at least have somewhat of a competitive team, you don't need to have too many homegrown talents for some of these teams. And I think that may be the way that they work without having any interruptions with the Crocodiles, because there hasn't been too heavy of a movement from the Crocodiles to the Centurions, from what I understand.
No, the Crocodiles were pissed off.
Yeah, I saw that.
They were pissed when they announced the Cologne Centurions. Yeah, so a couple things about that. The Cologne Centurions, from the reports that I'm receiving, do not have a place to play or practice right now. The city turned them down when they asked to use any of the public facilities, and the city turned them down. So from all the reports that I'm receiving, the Cologne Centurions have nowhere to play or practice right now. No field, right? Because the Cologne Crocodiles use their field, and that's most of the fields in Europe are managed by the municipal, so the government, who gives them permission to use the field. So when they asked for permission, they got turned down. So I think that was another big reason why the Cologne Crocodiles were pissed off, because these guys just come in here and start asking for permission to use shit. And they were like, no, this is our town. This is our city. Like, this is where we're playing.
You know, as we've discussed in the past, you know, and what we talked in the episode before this, you know, the club leagues, especially the GFL, you know, the ELF has tried to play this as let's be buddy. Meanwhile, you got the GFL, and that's pretty much said, no, we can't be playing buddy yet. You know, you're gonna have to work a little harder than that to just instantly.
Do you really think the ELF's been playing buddy?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they've definitely not been. I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you, for the minimal press releases that they've had, they've tried to play buddy. I'm not
fair.
saying that they look like that, because they definitely don't give that appeal off when you look at the moves they do when it comes to the clubs. I'm just telling you that entire thing with Cologne, if that is indeed the case, that plays right into that whole, butting
wait
heads
for it,
type of nature.
Because I'm not even close to done. So the next ridiculous thing that I've been told on and about reported on. So remember when the Panthers signed the Green Bay tight end Ryan Smith?
Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
So from what I was told, management decided that the Polish QB was not going to be enough, and so they told Ryan, they cut his contract as a player and said you're just going to be a coach, and they cut his salary in half.
What?
So they could bring in an American QB.
Okay.
After they already signed him and everything as a player, they told him he was going to be a coach and cut his salary in half, and boom. So now I'm being told he's going to go play in Germany.
Yep, he signed with the Ravensburg Razorbacks.
Yeah, and why? And because I wondered why too. It made no sense to me, but now we know why.
Yeah, no, I did see that. They just
that's very people don't understand. That's not how you run a professional league.
Exactly.
You don't just sign a player, have him come over. He's already in the country, and then you tell him, hey,
sorry.
you know what? We're just going to move you to a coach, and then cut his salary in half, and then be like, yeah, that's what we're going to do.
For all the flack that some of the lower indoor
that's really when you're calling yourself a professional football league, there is a certain standard you need to reach.
Absolutely.
And if you don't match that standard, then it's unprofessional. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That is an unprofessional thing to do. And it's like, what I really hope to see as this league does proceed forward in time, I'm hoping that they stay successful and have multiple seasons. I would like to see it very quickly, a players union form and some type of agreement like that, to have some type of CBA that prevents things like that from happening to players. I don't know how contracts and laws like that will work out there, obviously, but something equivalent, whatever would be the European equivalent to that.
Well,
you know what I mean?
the next part, if you like that one, get ready for this one, because when I heard this, I didn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. So the Berlin Thunder, they're up next. I'm pretty sure I got something on every team. Okay, so the Berlin Thunder, it's been reported and confirmed by a Berlin Thunder import that the money they were promised in their contract, when they arrived, they told them, hey, we're going to have to cut your salaries after they arrived. And you're not going to get what was promised to you.
I see.
This was confirmed by a Berlin Thunder import. I'm not going to share my sources, guys. Sorry.
Sure. I mean,
but
I wasn't even.
I can't argue with that on there.
But I mean, unconfirmed reports that they're trying to fix the situation. But even if they fix the situation, the damage is already done, dude. Another case of you claiming to be a professional league, and then you promising money, and then when they get there, you don't give them that money. Another shady business. Next one. I'm just going to kind of rattle through a couple, then we can talk about them. It's been reported to me that the Leipzig Kings are currently being funded by Frankfurt, and they have no owner or financial guy. I mean, this was as of Sunday when I spoke to these people. So sorry, Saturday. So it could have changed within the past 30 hours. I don't know. I could be wrong. But that they do not have an owner or financial guy, and all their money is being pumped through from Frankfurt. Another extremely unprofessional case of how do you have a team but you don't have an owner or a treasurer yet?
Yeah.
I mean, put in perspective,
those are the first things, and they already have 4 imports. They got their American imports without an owner or treasurer.
They have all of their non-American imports too.
Oh, really? Oh, they have everything without an owner or treasurer.
They have more than 10 non-American imports at this point.
Well, good for them. But God, it's going to be hard paying them when you're having another team handle it for you.
I think, here's the thing. And when the 2 teams dropped, when I saw that they were adding a team that didn't even have a logo yet, my immediate thought was, you're dropping 2 teams. Why are you trying to just make 2 more teams come out of thin air with this little bit of time left, right?
Mhm.
And I'm worried now that if that's true, I worry that they're now spreading their resources too thin, trying to have an 8-team league happen instead of just taking
Do
a loss
6.
and drop into a 16 league.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Very
and that's what we
easily-
talked about in that first episode was everything. Most of our issues with this league is how rushed everything is. I mean, that comes down to being the number one biggest mistake of this league. I don't
Mhm.
care who you are or how you explain it to me. Oh, it's good to capitalize it when people want to see sports because it's a pandemic. No, dude, you don't understand finances then. You don't, because it's so difficult to one, start a league. It's even more difficult to do it during a pandemic, and to do it
Mhm.
while having to make 3 teams. You might have a season, but I'm telling you, the product on the field is going to be shit. It's not going to be
They'll at
good
least
quality
suffer.
football. And to comment on that, let's talk about their Game Pass that they're selling. €100, €100 for the Game Pass so you can watch these games.
Correct.
Okay, you're going to charge people what was free on AFI, which is another thing AFI is pretty upset about right now. It's been free to watch European football on AFI. Okay. Now the ELF's going to charge €100 for the Game Pass for an unproven talent pool, for an unproven product. Okay. Of basically, it's literally just the guys that we're watching for free on AFI, just playing in a different team. That's all it
Mhm.
is.
Yeah.
So why? They're just trying to capitalize way too early. And that's one
Mhm.
thing that bothers me, because that's literally a playbook. That's playbook from the National Gridiron League. That is a step-by-step instruction from the National Gridiron League on how to get money out of people before you even start.
Mhm.
Selling championship tickets to the championship game before the season starts? To me, that's on something you don't even know if it's gonna like last the entirety.
Yeah.
And like I said, I hope it does. But what I'm saying is, like, all these things, it's just gonna turn into a huge ball of fire if it doesn't pull off.
Exactly. And what I think maybe a lot of European fans may not know is like we have seen this happen so many times in the States with so many
so many
different
times.
Oh,
Yes.
don't even get me started.
You know what I
Jesus.
mean? We have seen so many startup leagues come and go and try to do things the wrong way.
Yeah.
No one has ever really done it the right way. And then like the XFL was the closest to doing it the right way. And then COVID hit. And now I'm not even going to go into that rabbit hole of the CFL XFL merger right now. That's not worth any of my energy right
Dude,
now.
with the Twitter discussions, it's definitely not worth it. Like, I'm good with avoiding it.
Yeah. So like we've seen so many of these leagues come and go that it's like the writing is kind of on the walls, right? Like you said, it's a page by page from the National Gridiron League. It's like when things start to trend in one direction, we know where this. It's like anybody that's followed any of these leagues, we know where this story is
Well,
going.
and that people immediately call you a hater or anything, but it's like, dude, we know if Americans know anything, we know about failed football leagues. That's what we know. Because I'm pretty
Truth.
sure within the past 5 to 10 to 20 years, we've had at least 100 failed attempts at a football league
Yeah.
between arena and, like, semi-pro and all those different things of new people coming together saying, hey, we're going to make a new league, and then bam, doesn't work. Our American receiver played for one of those new leagues of arena in the States for 1 year, and then it collapsed. Like, it's just, so we know exactly how these things happen.
And even look, it's Shawtavius Jones on the Berlin Thunder was in both the AAF and the XFL.
Yeah,
Yes.
poor dude. I hope this works for him. I really do, man.
I really do too.
I'm the same
I
way.
would hate for him to go 3 for 3.
That was
Yeah.
That was the first thing I thought about when I looked at that roster sheet that Vince sent over, and I just went, man, I hope this does work out, and we're not like all these red flags go away somehow in a month, because like that guy, like give him a stable
Yeah,
place.
Jesus. Just let him play ball. Damn.
So,
Speaking of the Thunder, do anyone know why they rebranded their colors?
Oh.
Like all of a
I
sudden.
think they just-
One quick thing on the Thunder. By the way, they're practicing on a field, not like a football field, just a
random
park.
field.
Yeah. Just wanted to.
Okay.
I just wanted to throw that. Go ahead, continue.
To put another piece in. So, because that's it. I mean, hey, that's something else to think about. You know, it adds into like we're talking with Stuttgart, you know, having their issues, you know, but that's something that came up during the last month and a half is, you know, and more recently they changed their colors, but they kept the lightning bolt logo. I don't know why they did that.
I'm not sure. I think they just looked at the logo and they were like, this is pretty minimalist. Let's make it at least a little better, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, you haven't even launched, you know, usually you got to have a few years under your belt before you're considering a rebrand already, not a few months.
Yeah, it's like, look, they're definitely rushing a lot of things, but, you know, you look at the coaching staffs, they've managed to assemble some pretty solid coaching staffs across the league. Oh, yeah. They've assembled some solid rosters, at least on their import side, I feel.
Absolutely. I said if there's one huge positive to say about the league, it is coaching.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
That's how you develop and make it a better product is when you can have high quality coaches like that.
Yeah, and what I really like what they did in Barcelona is they had a whole shadowing program. So when they were doing their training camps, coaches from all of the different LNFA clubs across Spain were present and were all picking up game from all of the CFL veteran coaches that are now there. You know, like there's a lot of Grey Cup victories between the head coach between that coaching staff. You know, and then they have Marcel Frazier, who was on the Seattle Dragons. That highlight reel of him picking off. Wow, man, I don't want to put Quentin Flowers on blast like that, but he did pick off Quentin Flowers in the end zone. And that was a wild highlight reel catch. I'm not going to lie. I have to give him props. And he had a lot of NFL experience too. And it's kind of nice. I follow all these guys on Instagram and whatnot. I saw him post something like, hey, I'm canceling my US phone. Like, I'll be out of the country for an extended period of time. Like, a lot of these coaches are dedicated to this and are like expecting to be out there for the long haul and to like make a serious impact. Like, I hate that they're doing some of these things this way to begin with. And like, I'm just going to hope that they learn, they pivot, and they improve. Right.
Yeah, sure.
Like, how they did with what happened with the Dukes and with the Invaders, they're not doing that to the Crocodiles, from what I understand.
Yeah.
From what I saw, they signed an agreement with the Cologne Falcons, which is like I think they're playing in the regional league, the third tier league, and I think they've been using their practice.
That's what they're using
as their practice field. I've seen Cologne players in Cologne, like Centurions players in Falcons jerseys at practice when they were doing some of their first early practices. And they've signed a lot of players from the Cologne Falcons. And there's like a handful of, there's going to be some Crocodiles players that come in, but like they picked up Theatric Henson, who was in the CFL and has been, watch that dude's 2020 highlight reel for the Wrocław Panthers in Poland.
I was surprised the Panthers weren't able to
get him back. I know,
keep
that's
him back.
Crazy.
They probably just didn't offer him money that he wanted, which is silly because that dude's an animal. It's a freak of nature.
The other thing is maybe he just wanted to play in Germany instead.
That could have been part of it. But
that could be it.
Did his CFL contract not get extended?
No, he's still signed. He's like allowed to play in both leagues. The CFL allows players to opt out to go play in another league and then be able to come back.
And so the only reason he signed then is that because the CFL announced a postponed season?
100%. From what my understanding is that when their training camp is ready to start and
he's required to go.
He's required to go. So he's going to play at the very least the beginning of the season, and then it's like whatever happens with the CFL happens.
Yeah.
And like if you looked at the CFL Global Draft, Chris Ezeala got drafted in the first round. He didn't sign that deal. And Anthony, I can't remember his last name, Mahungu, I want to say, from France, who's on
probably close.
Who's on the Galaxy. he was on the Eagles at one point because he went to Purdue and then came back and played in the GFL on the Universe. He was also picked by the Red Blacks in the first round, and he ended up not signing with them either. And they're both staying in Europe and in Germany to play in the ELF instead because I mean, honestly, it looks more realistic that the ELF will play in.
Oh no, the ELF will play.
Right. I think they're dead set to play.
The question we have is if will they finish the season? That is
exactly. And here's the thing with them not signing their CFL deals, that doesn't mean that they can't go play in the CFL, right? Those teams still have the rights to those players.
Yeah.
Because if you noticed, what was it, the Chilean tight end that the Washington football team picked up, Sammy Reyes. He got drafted in the CFL Global Draft, even though he's on an NFL team, because they now have his rights. So if he ever signs to play in the CFL, he's immediately on, I don't remember what team, but he'd be immediately on their roster. So it'll be the same for the three of them, really, the three CFL Global players that are going to be in the ELF. They'll play their thing, and then it's like, hey, if the ELF doesn't finish through the season and the CFL is about to come back, like they may be able to be like, hey, I'm ready to play. The CFL may be ready to sign them and bring them in for camp anyway.
Interesting. So this is one thing. This is one more thing. It's kind of the last thing on my agenda about the unprofessionalism. I was told that, and Zach, I think you've heard about this. There was that big issue with Inside Sports Japan and the ELF using their photos or their like pictures or whatever.
I believe I saw something
their
along
press
that line.
announcements. Yeah. So they were contacting the ELF, telling them like, hey, if you're going to use our stuff, you have to pay us to use it. And the ELF cut off all contact and has not done anything to compensate for using their images or their their pictures, whatever it is. So I'm being told that they are possibly thinking about pursuing legal action and filing a lawsuit. And this just comes down to me as like just another just stupid, silly, unprofessional thing that could have been avoided completely. Like they got to understand, this isn't club sports no more. You're trying to make a fully professional league. What that also means is you can't just go and take anything you fucking want and use that as your demonstrate. You can't anymore. Like my club can take any picture of me on any team and post it out. Like that they can, because it's, you know, it's not a fully professional league. But when you're trying to make a fully professional league, you can't just do that. And then you can't just cut off contact from them when you don't want to pay them.
That is something that is, I think, is one of the pieces that is hardest to get over for at least the European scene right now with that, or at least for the ELF.
The club mentality
is like,
Vince
because
was talking about
we got to get away from that club mentality.
Talking with you guys and talking with like those that, or at least that are in, like, say, I remember like talking with Ian Park, for example, when I did an interview for the X League. You know, they're straight up like, it's professional. You know, that's professional league out there. That's not a club league. You know, the European scene, it's like, well, they're clubs, but they also feel like they have professional feels. So like, you know, it's always like, you know, what is it? Is it one or the other? It's weird
because it's like, the way I look at it is that it's not professional leagues, but there are professional players and there are professional.
I mean, in Europe,
there are professional teams. You know what I mean? Like, you look at like the New Yorker Lions in Germany, you look at the Swarco Raiders and like the Vienna Vikings. Those are professionally run clubs because they've just had so well run, been around for so long. But then, like, you know, maybe, you know, the Aligo Comets, I forget how that's pronounced, or some of the other smaller clubs, lesser clubs in Germany, or even just some even the best clubs in some of the other leagues. It's you're still a club. You know what I mean? It's still just like.
And like you said, Vince, you hit the hammer on the nail, man. It's they need to get away from the club mentality. And a lot of that has to do with getting the right people as part of the management.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're doing a great job recruiting coaches, right?
Right.
But if you just sign a club management dude, guess what mentality he's going to bring to your management now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like there's some people like our GM at Colorado Gold Diggers, Casper Reinhardt. The dude does an amazing job when it comes to managing money, managing, structure and finance and making things work, right? That is we are a professionally run system. He's a full-time treasurer and manager, and he has everything under control.
Right.
Same thing with our coach. Our coach is a full-time paid head coach. So like our team is pretty professionally run. We have a board and everything gets cleared before any money is spent, and they don't allow no bullshit of any kind. However, that is rare. You go across the water. I know of a certain Denmark team that we'll be playing soon who just goes through money like it's freaking toilet paper, man. They just do. And now they're in trouble. And that is literally how it always goes down. They need to do that for outside people. They need to not hire the dude that's been on the Division II team in that country for the past 6 years. They need to find new people, new blood. Go get a 23-year-old fresh out of college with a business degree, and you tell him, hey, you're going to run the finances here. Like, for real. I mean, that is, he brings a new mentality, younger, excited, ready to work. I mean, stuff like that, those are things that have to be changed as well. It's not just the coaches.
I like this is how this discussion's gone, because something that I see always comes up, and this is just referencing the American scene of all these alternative spring leagues we've seen over the years or the decades. The football and the personnel that want to play the game are always the most ready and dedicated. It's always the behind the scenes that is either overlooked or is not as focused on in importance. And I always worry about that stuff with any new league. I mean, right now, the biggest one that we're talking about in America is the Spring League, which is getting its most time. And even this conversation right here, where it's like, remove that club mentality. For us with the Spring League, it's like, you got a lot of stuff going your way. Let's think about removing the, minor league mentality, maybe, if we get to a certain point. Because like, that's something they hold on to that I have an issue with sometimes, is they're like, well, we're not really a professional club.
They're trying to be a stepping stone as opposed to a destination.
Right. We make these guys pay or come in for free because we're just giving them tape. Like, that's something that's on my own.
And then they rack in a crap ton of money, and then they don't spend it the right way, or they don't give any to the players. And then you just keep repeating this vicious cycle. And I really think that is where the AAF went wrong. Now, I'd have to do more research. I don't know who was in charge of what, but the product was good. They had good players. They had great coaches.
Funny enough, that one, that one's interesting.
There's a class of coaches that are always ready to do leagues like that, because there's all these older college coaches that just don't have it in them to do the pressure of a college season again, or the length of an NFL season again. But they can just do a 10-week season in the spring for like a startup team that only is going to have like 20,000 fans or less at the game. And the only people who cover it are podcasts and Twitter accounts. And like, the headlining media in New York isn't writing about the New York Guardians. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Kevin Gilbride isn't getting blasted in the Wall Street Journal every week because of how the result of the product of the guard. You know what I mean? He's just like, no one's going to bother him for that, and that's kind of why you see a lot of these older coaches that have all this great experience from way back in the day kind of keep circulating through these same leagues. I think Jerry Glanville has been in both the XFL and the Spring League. I don't know who else, if he had any AAF involvement.
Bart Andrus, another one. That was for Team 7. That was for Team 9, though, so I guess not completely there, but both the same thing. They've kind of transitioned. The TSL was a testing grounds for the XFL, But I just look at the TSL, or like even the AAF's a great one where we're talking with the finance side, where it's like, So here, the AAF, for those listening in and who maybe just have heard about it but don't care, like the finances, they originally had Reggie Fowler, who was going to potentially be an owner of the Minnesota Vikings at one point. He was supposed to be the main investor. That investment was seized because he was doing illegal things on the side, roughly as the week one was going on. And so they rushed
It was like
in
a week before kickoff.
Exactly. Yeah. They released some money during Christmas time. Like that was the story that ESPN wrote up on like the aftermath. He released money on Christmas to let the league keep going. And then they got their entire cash flow seized because Reggie Fowler was doing some shady stuff globally when it came to managing money. And so, ended up they rushed
to week
in
2,
and
right?
What's that?
They got to week 2, and then the owner of the
Tom
Hurricanes
Dundon
bought it, right? He bought the whole league essentially.
Exactly. So finances for there. And the funny thing is he had the money. It's just that it was losing a ton of money at that time. But like the thing is, finances are important and what you get your flow from, your cash flow from, credit, the ELF has the names behind it. So that's the thing, but you hate
From
to
what
hear
I understand,
like,
they have a pretty strong sponsorship behind them.
I have heard that too.
From what I understand, it seemed like they had like a pretty solid like financial backing to start with. And what it's really going to come down to is how interested these fans are going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think what's a good sign for them is that they've only had a handful of games put tickets up for sale, but like in 2 days, all 1,600 tickets for the Sea Devils and Galaxy kickoff game sold in 2 days. And that's only like a tenth of the capacity of that stadium. So like they're gonna slowly try to they'll probably open up a little bit more as time goes on. I don't know what the current COVID situation is in Europe. I know that like a switch just kind of hit a month and a half ago, and just like everybody in New Jersey and New York is just like pretending like this never even happened. But
out here 100 cases spike, everyone freaks out.
I mean, hey, in Indiana, we're pretty much, I'll tell you, in Indianapolis, I think people just are tired of it. That's just the vibe. Like you're talking like the switch where like, forget about it. Like that's kind of how it is out here for Indiana. But so different countries.
From what I understand though, things are improving over there in the COVID front. So they'd be able to open up the capacity a bit more. And it seems like at least for the Galaxy and the Sea Devils, I think they're going to do great at the gate. Whichever percentage they're going to be allowed, I think they're going to do great at the gate because the NFL Europe nostalgia clicks with a lot of people.
That's what they're driving with.
And what's kind of part of what I really do like about this league is how many of these players were the kids in the stands at these games in the early 2000s.
That's fair.
And like how many I've seen like some guys on the Dragons have like their original Barcelona Dragons jersey from like 1999 or something like that they like wore to the games when they were kids.
That's
so
awesome.
like that's I really do like that they're able to do some stuff like that. Obviously it doesn't negate canceling contracts on people or things like that, but it's more of just, I guess, trying to shine a light on some of the positive as well that they've been able to
and
do.
you know what, like I said, the NFL, that's one thing that's been great celebrating is that you can see all the people that really love what NFL Europe was at the time and what it could be. And of course, I think people recognizing now, like even with just the ELF, like people start looking into the club scene now in Europe and they're like, oh, wait a minute, this actually is kind of a bigger deal now. Like it kind of got popular after it left, even more so than it was back in 2007. The scenes
100%.
are growing for this sport, and people were recognizing that. And at least the ELF, in terms of how they're like, yeah, we see how these leagues are great. Now let's unify that. I'm like, I get that message still. I still like that message, but you have to do it correctly. And it's, as we talked about in the first show, you are walking kind of on eggshells with how you have to deal with the guys that already are there.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the way that they set up the Dragons, right? What I was kind of saying earlier, with they had a combine, they have all their imports and whatnot. The Sea Devils and the Falcons, the Galaxy and the Panthers are all going to be competing on like that top tier level, right? I would say that because the Galaxy is essentially what the 2020 Frankfurt Universe would have been that's basically what that roster is.
Yeah. And you know what?
And-
let's actually end the show. We'll do it like this, as we have 7 teams. I guess based on you two, your guys, what would be a power rankings right now? Just to end the
Okay.
show, like go 1 through 7.
No, see, that's the thing. It's tough to really tell, and that's why.
Oh no,
haven't
I know
one-
half these players, so I can give you a perfect one. You
Well,
ready?
at least let's
I'll let
have a
you go first
guesstimation.
then.
You know, we'll at least do
All right,
that.
all right. I'll start with dead last Berlin Thunder. Dead
Okay.
last. The only team that will not have an American QB. They signed Calvin Stitt, who played for the Copenhagen Towers in Denmark in 2020.
Okay.
He's a British guy. And you know, it's just for the talent they're going to be playing against, it's not going to work well. Dead last. Number 1, I have to say the Hamburg Sea Devils, just because they're going to have some of the better linemen in the league. Absolutely. Number 2, gonna have to go with the Galaxy, of course. Galaxy, just because, like you said, man, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see a lot more people on that team that were on Universe.
Yeah,
You know,
like I've been following with every signing. It's like almost every single person. I have like a whole list of the teams they've played for, and the last one is Frankfurt Universe.
I will say number 4. I would normally rank them a little higher, but number 3, right? Yeah, number 3, Leipzig Kings, because Michael Birdsong is a very good quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They signed Timothy Knutnell, who's been playing with the Potsdam Royals. He's a very solid receiver, great leader, all that. And I think those two together are going to be a very good combination.
They have a litany of receivers, because they have Anthony Dobley-Wolf too. They signed Yoshihito Omi from the X League, who just played in the Spring League in the States.
And so like, Michael Birdsong is going to have a field. And they released the pass rankings for 2019 for all the quarterbacks that are in the LF. And, you know, Michael Birdsong wasn't like, you know, at the number 1. He was always number 2 or number 3, but people don't understand. Michael Birdsong's been playing against 10 times better competition than any other quarterback in the LF.
Right.
The Japan League ain't no joke, and I don't care who anyone says they might be. It's not. Playing in the X League and being good in the X League. Yeah, granted, Michael was on a very good X League team. Yeah. So it's easier to be good on a very good team. However, he still played at a high level. Okay. So I think he will be the top quarterback in the league. Absolutely.
Dude, look at the Japanese national team has only ever lost to the United States and Canada. They have not lost a international match to any other country ever.
That's right.
Ever.
Yeah. And I'm getting Michael Birdsong what was a big blessing, because there was they kind of did him dirty at his team. And so, I mean, it's a good thing for the Kings, because they got a really good passer with him. And then number 4, I'm going to just go Stuart Surge, just because, you know, whatever. 5 and 6 doesn't really matter. And then absolute dead last.
Not the Panthers.
Oh, no, Panthers at 4. Panthers at 4, because I love
that was what I was going to say. I'm like, I'm surprised that they're that low.
You know?
No, only because I can't pass up Birdsong. I mean, to put the Panthers at 3 over Birdsong and those receivers, that would just be silly. And then Panthers, Barcelona Dragons, then Stuttgart, and then Berlin Thunder. Oh no, Berlin Thunder's dead last. So yeah, that's my ranking.
So it's gonna be interesting to see how what's it called? Because like how the Dragons really will stand up to all of these German teams and the Polish team. It's like we know that the Wrocław Panthers are on that level, right?
Yeah.
And it's like the Galaxy and the Sea Devils are all set to be at that level. The Sea Devils, I did a little bit more research into it. So the Elmshorn Fighting Pirates decided to back out of the season because of COVID and because they knew that there was going to be an ELF team in Hamburg and that they were going to compete for players. So they were like, you know what? It's not worth it. We're just not even we're going to back out for the year. That opened up the door for Max Patz, who was the GM then of the Fighting Pirates to be hired to be the GM of the Sea Devils. And like he's just getting all of the talent that he has developed for all of the different teams he's worked for over the years. So he worked for the Hamburg Blue Devils, Hamburg Huskies, Lubeck Cougars, Elmshorn Fighting Pirates. This basically just like the bottom half of this roster is just all people that he has been developing in the Hamburg area for a very long time. So like they have a very well put together team. They didn't need a combine or anything. He just knew where all these players were.
Yeah.
And he was able to just sign all of his guys again. And those three teams are like setting a high bar of like they will be able to run it against any other team in Europe. I feel those three teams could take it and at least have a competitive game against the New Yorker Lions, against the Unicorns, against the Vienna Vikings. They'd be able to have a good game, not like the CEFL matchup that was 81-7.
God, that was disgusting.
Right. So what I'm hoping to see is that the support of the import players will be enough to make the Dragons be able to be at least competitive against these German clubs, to have the Centurions pulling only really regional players, third tier and lower players to supplement their star players and their imports that they have. Is that going to be enough to at least make them competitive? And then that's really the big thing in Leipzig is they don't even have a GFL club established there, you know, like the highest level club, like hit the third tier, I think a few years ago. I don't know if the Leipzig Lions are still in the third tier. Like it'll be interesting to see, like, will all of that import talent be enough to keep that team afloat? And then if it is, all that will mean is they're signing like agreements with these regional clubs to help bring their imports down to be coaches, help develop that local talent. So as time goes on, the Leipzig Lions will maybe be a better run club for developing talent for a professional team like the Kings. So we'll see. You know, I'm not going to be able to definitively tell you that yes, there's enough football players in Leipzig to keep a whole team running, but the hope is that they can at least get enough of that talent locally to keep a team that can at least put something good on the field, right? Enough to make the games worth going to, right? Just at least make the games worth going to. Don't have to win every one, but at least know that like your fans will at least be able to get a good game out of it, right?
Just like you're talking with Barcelona, same what we were saying earlier, same thing.
And
just get a product out there, with a somewhat rushed season, figure out next year get through. You know, but, not for all of them, but at least if we're talking similar cases, I guess.
Yeah. And you know, it's like if these teams are able to compete, right, the league will then have a blueprint of how to make a team be competitive in an area that maybe isn't dominated by talent, but there's still interest, right? Like you saw the Milano Seamen get absolutely walked over by the Swarco Raiders in the CEFL game as well. But if you were to get all of the best players from Italy to be on one team supported by the same import rules, could they compete? And now the ELF is going to give you that answer. We're going to have a definitive yes or no. These teams will be able to compete with this support, or no, they won't. And if the answer is yes, their plan to expand to 20 countries in 3 years or whatever can happen that easily without it being disruptive to the current landscape and without rushing bad on-field product.
Right.
So it's wishful thinking, but that's kind of the future I see them laying out for themselves, and I hope that they're able to achieve, because a league like that, a league that has 20 teams across every European country would be insane.
The possibilities.
Awesome. You know what I mean? Like they don't get to do that anymore. The tournaments that used to have the teams like that don't happen anymore. The Euro Bowl just fell apart completely because it ended up being all GFL teams. They started doing the Big Six, and then the Big Six became 5 GFL teams and the Swarco Raiders. And eventually the teams from Austria backed out and went and joined the CEFL instead. And I think part of that disparity comes from different import rules, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that what they can achieve this ideal cross-continental league with shared import rules, shared free agency pool, shared resources that kind of make every team actually be competitive instead of every league having like, all right, well, it's only going to be like these 2-3 teams in the running by the end of the year. The rest of them are just kind of there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope that we get to see that, or at least we'll get to see an somewhat equal play, or at least a power level, like if we will, especially with the, Barcelona being really kind of the wild card in terms of the region, and to reference what you're talking about, the countries, the ones that are being mainly talked about that we've found, Austria and France keep coming up as consistent, potential expansions for early look. And Austria would be the one I would see as like an instant, like, okay, you can compete with some Austrian teams that, for at least what I've talked with Aaron about with Austria, if it's not Germany, Austria is usually right behind them.
Would love to be there next year.
Yeah, great. No, great. I've been watching the games, and I've finally been watching so many different leagues the past few weeks. Like, the broadcast quality is great. Like, the football quality is good. You know what I mean? And it's not just the two powerhouse teams between the Vikings and the Raiders. Like, Graz Giants have been putting some great games together. The Danube Dragons have been it's been some quality football between all of those clubs. So yeah, Austria's for real.
Awesome. Guys, we'll wrap this up here. For those listening, Aaron, as we're recording, it's like almost 1 a.m.
Yeah, I see him falling asleep there. I'm sorry to keep you up.
No, it's all good.
This guy's got things to do in his head.
Final words?
Absolutely. Please.
Hoping for the best, expecting the worst. Prepared for the worst.
Prepared for the worst.
That seems like a little more.
And that's how it is with every startup league. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Every startup league I've watched, I prepare for the best, or I hope for the best and prepare for the worst. It's the same deal, I
hope it works, man. Everyone listening, I hope it works. I'm not a hater, I promise.
Yeah, exactly. I really do. My one last final thought: don't sleep on the Dragons. I know that it's a steep difference, but they have a lot of GFL talent GFL experience in homegrown talent in some of their players. They have a good amount of players that have GFL talent and have played in some of these other leagues as well. Mario Flores was just in the spring league as well. They don't just take any random wide receiver from Spain. You got to be pretty good to be pulled all the way over to play in the spring league. So they've got some serious talent that's homegrown as well. So they may surprise a lot of people. I'll say that much.
Gentlemen, thank you for coming on for this next edition. We're going to keep on keeping this updated. People like hearing us, it sounds like. So, I mean, and you both, if I'm going to talk about anything ELF or anything Europe, you two are the guys I go to first and foremost. You just give me the best information, and I'm learning more and more every time I talk to both of you. Not going to lie. I thank you enough for that. And of course, I got to give you guys plugs. I'll start off. We'll give Aaron's the one that needs to really get to sleep. So I'll give him the first one to plug so he can start
June 5th on AFI.TV.
I'm tapped
Our
in.
first game against the 89ers. Super excited. Please watch, support. It'll be a great game.
If you don't think I'm going to be screaming watching that game, man, you're very, very mistaken. I will be very hyped to watch that. I'll tell you that much.
I'm seeing Vince, like, and even myself, where it's like you'll watch Aaron throw a team and be like, "That's my guy right there." I talked to him. We do a show together.
I love the support. Hope we can put a really good season together for everybody.
Yeah, no, of course, dude. Best of luck to you, man.
Thank you.
I'll be watching.
Much love.
Me.
I will be too. Yeah, we both will. It's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to your guys' season kicking off. I know you've been delayed a few times, but it should be a blast. Especially the team you're on now too. I mean, the possibilities for the Gold Diggers, it can be endless. So
only person that's going to beat us is ourselves. So we gotta be mentally tough, and we have to find ways to overcome adversity and stop with the mentality of the Towers are the best team.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, the Towers play the 89ers this Saturday. If anyone wants to see that game, that'll be online.
Oh, I didn't realize they're starting this early. Yep. Okay.
I'll keep my.
We get to see every team play before we have to play anybody. So we got film on everybody.
Getting some scouting in early. Nice.
Love it.
But yeah, folks, June 6th. Keep that in mind.
Fifth.
I knew it's good. That's why I did that. It's reaffirming it. See, you got to people hear it again. Usually it's twice. You can make sure that you can get it. June
Attaboy.
5th, folks, you'll get to see Aaron play. Vince, I know you do plenty of stuff. As discussed at the beginning, whether it's of course scouting reports, film, on social media, you're all over it. Where's the social plugs for you, man?
Just at Alt FB Scout. If you're watching the video, it should be right in the corner there. I think I may have spelled football out on the Instagram. I think I made this mistake last time because I don't remember. No, it is the same. It is the same. Okay. Alt FB Scout on both Instagram and Twitter. I just post links to games, highlights of games, spotlights of players and whatnot. So if you like international football and arena football, anything that's not the NFL and not the NCAA, I'm tapped in. And if you want to tap in, give me a follow and I'll share some stuff.
No, don't even say give. I demand you to give him a follow if you are watching or listening to this show.
You can follow me. You cannot. It's okay.
And hey, everybody watching, like and subscribe to Zach Keilman's Gridiron Gallery on YouTube. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
There you go. Yep.
For the sake of all three of us, give us a subscription here. We would appreciate it a lot, and a like on this video. We swear we're trying to be balanced here, talking about this league and giving it a fair shot, but also letting you know what's going on. Thank you all for watching or listening in on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, we'll all be back. For Aaron, for Vince, I'm Zach Keilman saying so long. Thank you as always for the support, tuning in, and anything else. And until next time, stay tuned. Catch you later.